Hello everyone. We'll start the session in a few minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. If you can't see the screen, please let me know now. Okay, we're going to start the session. Hello and welcome to our webinar all about merging on and offline data. First, a quick introduction to Marketing Metrics and our two speakers today. That's myself and Laura.
Hello.
Hello, Laura. Marketing Metrics is made up of a team of data scientists devoted to empowering business with data insight. Me, I'm Grant, and I head up the data science unit here at Marketing Metrics. My colleague Laura is one of the data scientists on my team. As we go along today, please type in your questions in the chat sections, and we'll aim to leave enough time at the end of the presentation to answer as many of them as possible. If not, we'll send you individual answers by email. Please tweet about today's webinar using the Marketing Metrics handle @MarketMetrics and the name of the event, Harness Data.
So in today's webinar, we'll be going over 6 topics, and I'll be kicking off with what online data is available and can it be merged with offline data.
I'll be looking at what can be done once on and offline data is linked.
Then I'll be talking about has the right tracking been set up online to allow the right data to be captured and linked to offline data.
I'll be then looking at if on and offline data should be used together when calculating advertising attribution.
We'll have a brief discussion about the best tools out there for accessing online data.
And then I'll finish off with how we can use machine learning to harness on and offline data. And now over to Laura.
So getting straight into the first question, what online data is available and can it be merged with offline data? So most people have some type of website tracking in place and are normally using tools such as Google Analytics, Universe Analytics, or Google Analytics Premium. Yahoo Web Analytics is another one, Clicky, and there's a whole range out there. There's a different range of different types of data and website visitor behavior that can be captured from these tools in the form of dimensions and metrics. So dimensions are a way of dividing the data, for example, the day of the week or the country, and metrics are numeric measurements that can be tracked and plotted over time. So this is things like number of visits or length of time on page. Depending on how advanced your systems and your system users are, there are a host of different dimensions and metrics that are available online for you to capture. I'm going to go through a list of the types of data that you can capture, varying from beginner to intermediate to advanced level users, so you're aware of the types of information that you could be or currently are capturing on your customers. So going into the beginner level, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail really, because this is the generic dimensions and metrics that you would see typical of Google Analytics, and most people are familiar with these types of metrics. They will be available in the pack, which will be sent out after the webinar. I'm going to go straight into intermediate level data that can be captured. So the types of things that can be tracked if you're an intermediate level user are specific page views. So people who view specific pages within your website, for example, if they viewed the delivery options, this can often be an indicator of people who might abandon their basket because they're looking at the delivery. Is it worth it? Is it not? Clicks on specific links and buttons within your page, like a sign up to newsletter button, can be tracked. Form submittals. Have people submitted a form? So if you have people who want to send questions to your organisation or any types of forms, give contact details, etc. If you're an e-commerce company, then you can also track transactions and revenue, and a host of different types of events. And when I say events, I mean things like downloads, mobile ad clicks and gadgets, flash elements to your websites, and things like video plays. For retailers, this could be if they selected a particular colour or size from a product page, or if they added it to their wish list before they converted. All of this type of information can be tracked. We can also look at social interactions. So if you have social buttons embedded in your website, you can look at who's liked your Facebook page, who's followed you on Twitter. Timed intervals, so how many 15-minute slots do they spend on each particular page, for example, and you can set different types of timed intervals that you want to track. Another interesting one, especially if you deliver a lot of content on your website, is scroll depth. So you can actually track how far down a page someone has scrolled. Did they reach the bottom of the page? Did they reach the bottom of a particular piece of content? And that can give you an inclination on if they did actually read the content, if you pair that with things like the timed intervals, how much time they spent on the page. You can also track timing, so the loading speeds for a page. If someone's experiencing particularly low loading speeds, that might cause frustration and they're less likely to give good feedback on your page. And finally, on the intermediate level, cross-domain tracking. So if your organisation has more than one domain, you're actually able to set up tracking so you can track the individual that goes directly between the two domains. And you can look at their activity on one of your websites and then one of your other websites. In terms of advanced level tracking now, so for this type of tracking, usually you need someone with some kind of coding experience, so it's really the top level users of the analytics tools out there. So first of all, an individual unique identifier. So this is not just a cookie ID, this is something that enables you to identify that person as an individual. So it gives you not an anonymous cookie ID, it gives you what that person actually looks like and enables you to track and extract what repeat visitors are doing each time they come back from the site. Session unique identifier, so this enables you to track and extract activity within a particular session. And when I say session, it's when they first enter the website and then leave the website. That will be one session. And then the most granular type of data is hit level data. So hit level as opposed to session level is every single interaction that can be clicked or scrolled or all of the things that I mentioned really in the intermediate. And this can be tracked down to a date time level to the millisecond. So you can see exactly by millisecond where someone is clicking and interacting with your website. Another one is content authors. So if your website publishes a lot of content that is written by different authors, to find out which website authors have the most popular content, you can set up tracking by author so you can see whose content by author is being engaged with most frequently. Response site version is another quite interesting one. So obviously, within Google Analytics, you can see which device they're on, but often people can resize their browser at any time, so they will be able to view the page in different versions if you have different versions of your page, so if you've got a responsive site. And this can be quite a good inclination on, are people likely to convert if they're on the mobile version as opposed to the desktop version? How good are your versions getting to people converting? We can also count views by item, and what I mean by this is how many times is a product viewed before purchase, so how many times they keep coming back to view that item. Search terms is another one, so if you have, most people have a search bar on their website, what items have been searched for in the bar, actually what words have been searched for, and then you can kind of feed that into your pay-per-click or make that content more readily available, put it on the home page, easier to get to if people are searching for those items. Site test variations, often people put in A/B testing for different types of home pages or different page versions. So this enables you to track what version each website visitor viewed, and then you can see then how likely they are to convert from that. Survey scores is another one, so if you have some kind of customer satisfaction survey, all of that information can be tracked and extracted. And finally, browser information, and this includes things like, do they have an ad blocker installed, which is vital if you've got YouTube content or content where ads tend to pop up as a result of playing the video. So I hope that gives you an overview of all of the types of data that you can capture through online. The intermediate and advanced level data can all be pulled into Google Analytics and analysed through a custom report or extracted using Google's core reporting API. All data is available at hit, session and user level if configured correctly, but Google Analytics does not store personal details. As I mentioned before, they only store a cookie ID, which is anonymous. So how can we merge this with offline data? This is the second part of my question. So in order to link on and offline data, you will need the user to log in at some point, providing you with their personal details that enable you to link their online data to any offline data that you have. Most commonly, this is the email address. So this is a simplified example here. We've got someone who's logged in via joblogs@gmail.com, and then we're able to then use their email address and match on that to append on their offline activity and get a more holistic view of your customer. To identify users across device, they will need to log in via each device, because if you log in on one device, that's not automatically transferred to another device. So they'll need to log in across device, and then that will have an extra feed coming into the merged data source. This is a simplified diagram, but I'm going to go into more detail about exactly how this works when we come on to section 3, has the right tracking being set up. But for now, Grant is going to tell you what can be done once the on and offline data is linked. So over to you, Grant.
Thank you, Laura. In this section, we will look at what can be done once the on and offline data has been merged. Before I start, let me clarify the type of data we're talking about. Transactional and account information of online customers has always been available offline. The missing element we are talking about is the browsing behavior of your active customers. We are not talking about this at a top-line summary level. We are talking about actual individual level browsing information for your customers, where we have a named contact that we can communicate with by email, post, telephone, and digitally via social channels. The types of questions we're aiming to answer by merging the two data sources are, firstly, what are my consumers really interested in? As a retailer, I may assume females are looking at ladies' wear and males are looking at men's wear. But what about mums and dads who will be looking at kids' wear as well? As an insurer, you know the products your customers have, in all likelihood, will be home or motor insurance. But how do you select customers to cross-sell the push products to? For example, pet, medical, caravan, and wedding cover. By capturing the browsing behavior of your consumers, you can easily run heavily targeted campaigns using your consumers' actual interests instead of the perceived interests. Without this information, this type of targeting will be based on assumptions and data appends, which add to the costs of your campaigns. Merging the on and offline data together provides a holistic view of your consumers. Rules based on browsing time and page depth can be used to select those customers with a serious product interest versus those who have landed on a particular page without intent to buy that particular product. Essentially, you're using browsing data or journey maps to identify what your consumers are really interested in and then targeting them with a tailored communication. Secondly, you may be asking how we can drive more sales. Some questions to consider are, do we need more physical store locations? By capturing your consumers' browsing activity, you can calculate what percentage convert to actively purchasing based on distance to your stores. You can work out if people who live closer to your stores would rather go in-store and then allocate more online ad spend to areas with lower numbers of stores. Another consideration is how we can optimize our ad budget. You may not have physical stores, but you may be questioning where to place your ads to drive more sales. If the online information is available at individual level, you can assess browsing behavior by different demographics and adjust your ad strategy accordingly to maximize revenue from certain demographic groups. Store footfall has always been measurable, but now too is online footfall. We can now assess the impact of store presence and varying media budgets on our sales. The third question is, can we retain customers better? There are many trigger events which highlight a consumer's interest is waning. Many of them are missed if browsing behavior is not captured at an individual level. A few examples I'm going to go over include visiting the cancellations policy page. When your consumers do this, this is typically a very strong sign that they are likely to lapse. If they're looking at the terms and conditions page, this often shows that customers may be looking at the impact of cancelling an item, a policy, or a membership they have with you. Coming back onto your page via an aggregator site, this could be a sign that they're shopping around, but it may be that they've come back onto your site because you have the best deals. So that's not necessarily a big concern. Those looking at delivery details, it may be that your delivery costs or policies are putting them off. And then finally, abandoned baskets. This normally highlights customers who were shopping around with competitors, but at the same time looking at what your offerings are. These online browsing behaviors can be used in conjunction with other bits of information to build powerful prediction models on which of your consumers are likely to be lapsing. Once this has been done, you can take relevant actions of those that are highly likely to be leaving your organization. Fourth, do we know our consumers as well as we should? Consumers are willing to share information with us if we use it to give them an advantage. The simplest example of this is a consumer clicking the permit button on a website when stated that cookies are being used. They are actively telling you they want to be understood better. You already know their previous transactional behavior and target accordingly. Why not incorporate their browsing activity to create a fuller picture of the other products they're interested in? Using this data, together with the offline data, to build segments provides an extremely manageable way to target your consumers with highly relevant marketing material. In essence, you want to know what is the true value of your customers. So far, we have been talking about collecting online browsing data, but what about in-store data? In recent years, more and more organizations have been offering consumers e-receipts or membership rewards, allowing individual store transactions to be linked to a named contact. This information allows us to track consumer activity even more. Consumers do not want to receive irrelevant marketing communications, getting them to buy things they have already bought. This has happened to me a number of times. By connecting the two data sets, we can firstly ensure this is avoided completely. Secondly, we can track which media ultimately results in the sales more accurately. For example, if we knew a person landed on a particular product page because of PPC, but didn't purchase online and instead went in-store a day later, then that sale can be attributed to PPC. Lastly, we can calculate the true value of our customers. Analysis conducted by us here at Marketing Metrics shows that on and offline customers are worth on average 2.5 times more than customers who only shop either in-store or online. So in summary, by merging the on and offline data, it shows us, 1, what your consumers are really interested in by using customer journey maps to identify your consumers' actual interests. 2, how we can drive more sales by assessing the impact of store presence and varying media budgets on sales. 3, how we can retain customers better by using trigger events with other known information to model customers at risk of lapsing. 4, how we can get to know our customers better by incorporating browsing information when defining consumer segments. And finally, it shows us the true value of our customers by providing a more holistic view. I'm now going to hand over to Laura, who's going to talk you through whether the right tracking has been set up online to allow the right data to be captured and linked to offline data.
So first of all, has the right tracking been set up online? All too often, we see people going in and trying to tag and track everything on their website without discussing what their business objectives are. So it's vital that you discuss what your business objectives are and you set up the right tags to ensure that you're able to monitor these objectives. So some questions that you need to ask yourself before deciding which tags need to be set up are, what is defined as conversion? What as a company do you define as a conversion? Or there are like sub-conversions as well that you might be interested in. What are the typical steps to a conversion? What are the typical barriers to conversion? What information needs to be captured about that conversion? And what personal information needs to be captured as well? So this is, as I mentioned earlier, for example, email, and then that can be linked with offline data. So once you've defined what needs to be tracked, you need to set up the relevant tags, the intermediate or advanced level tracking as discussed earlier, using Google Tag Manager or other systems out there. So if you're using Google Tag Manager, it's vital that you test your tags using the firing scenarios that are available within the system so that you can check that the tags have been set up correctly and that the data that's being captured is being captured in a way that you expect. So, how can this be linked to offline data? As I mentioned before, to be able to link on and offline data, you will need to capture some sort of unique identifier. Normally, this is an email through someone logging in via a website. The cookie ID for that user can then be attributed to that email address or that individual, which means that they're no longer anonymous, and all previous browsing behavior from that device prior to the login can also be attributed to that person by looking historically at their cookie ID. But what about cross-device? So the easiest way to explain this is by way of an example. So I've come up with an example here. Joe Bloggs uses 2 devices to access a website, and he visits the website a total of 6 times. So how do we know it's Joe Bloggs, and when in the journey can we attribute a visit to him? So if we look on visit 1, we see that he hasn't logged in. So at that point, he has a cookie ID 123, but we don't know it's Joe Bloggs. He then goes onto the website via another device, this time his tablet. He gets assigned a different cookie ID, 456, and still no login, so we don't know it's him, and at the moment we think this is 2 different people. However, on his 3rd visit, he goes on his desktop, and this time he logs in. Now we're able to attribute visit 1 and visit 3 to joebloggs@gmail.com, so we know that's the same individual. Again, visit 4, he goes onto the desktop and logs in, and doesn't log in, but we know that cookie ID 123 is Joe Bloggs, so we still know that his 4th visit is Joe Bloggs. Visit 5, he then logs in on his other device. He logs in via the tablet this time. So then we're able to attribute cookie ID 456 also to Joe Bloggs. That's really the end of the example, because then we know that any visits from either of those devices, historically or going forward, will be able to attribute to Joe Bloggs. This data can then be extracted and linked to offline data, given that the offline data has the same unique identifier being captured. So, for example, if you had a call center that asked the caller's email address as a security measure when they call up, you'd then be able to link that data, the individual's call center queries, with their online browsing behavior. So in this simple example, we can see that all 6 visits have been able to link to the call center queries that Joe Bloggs has also made. So that's kind of the logistics of how we are linking on and offline data. So now Grant's going to go over, should on and offline data be used when calculating advertising attribution?
Thank you, Laura. So once your on and offline data is available together in a single customer view, you're in a position to calculate the true value of your media activity. Certain offline media activity will be driving online traffic, while certain online media activity will be driving in-store traffic. Econometrics can be used as a tool to determine the overall optimum media mix, but online activity can now be attributed to a single sale both online and in-store. Conventional online tools can readily track the source of a visit, but if the sale is not completed online, then the media attribution cannot be completed correctly. With the 2 data sources merged, it is possible to allocate the sale of an item in-store to a particular online media channel. This effectively allows for true omni-channel attribution instead of the first click or last click model historically used by most organizations. If anyone has more questions on omni-channel attribution, please drop me a line at the end of the webinar and I can send you some more details on our product called OmniAt. Once all your sales have been attributed to a particular media, then it's possible to calculate the ROI of all media channels. This will show hierarchically which channels are the most effective for your business. The ROI analysis can also be broken down by region, product, demography, and so on, which will essentially allow you to maximize profit by allocating budget to a particular media in such a way as to increase sales of your most profitable items or customers. Accurately, ROI calculations will lead to optimized media planning and budgeting. And now over to Laura, who will take you through the best tools for accessing online data.
So you've heard me mention a few of Google's tools, so I'm just going to go over them briefly now. Google has a host of tools, and they're really the most popular tools since they're able to link in to Google AdWords, whereas other platforms don't have access to this information. Google keeps it to themselves. So these tools, you're able to link in all of your PPC activity and things like that. Google Analytics is now called Google Universal Analytics, and Google Analytics Premium is soon to be changed to Google Analytics 360. And these are all the generic kind of reporting tools which I've mentioned can capture the data that I spoke about in the first section. Google Tag Manager allows you to track all of the beginner, intermediate, and advanced items discussed at the beginning of the webinar. And Google Analytics Core Reporting API allows you to extract that data. This is free with Google Analytics, and it's sampled data if you have over 250 visits, unless you have Google Premium. So at 250 visits plus, it will start sampling the data. You can get around this if you're using it to extract data, say, every day, if you know that you only get 250 visits or less a day. By extracting every day using the tool, you can get around the sampling issue. BigQuery is Google's analytics data warehouse, and by setting up a data layer, all captured website activity can be queried and exported on an automatic basis using BigQuery. This information can then be pushed out to a database of your choice, and this is free with Google Premium. So this is one of the things that could enable you to link your on and offline data. There are other tools out there. So some free tools that are out there are Yahoo Analytics, which is similar to Google Analytics, but allows you to import data. So you can import data such as cost of goods, and it gives you a bit more flexibility in terms of profiling and filtering. Clicky is another free one, also similar to Google Analytics, but enables you to get real-time data, so you don't have to wait the typical day that Google Analytics makes you wait. And Open Web Analytics focuses on the simplicity of their tool. It's an open source tool, so if you like open source software, then this is the one for you. Again, it's comparable with Google Analytics. There are various paid tools out there as well. Celebris provides real-time feeds of individual level big data without the need to tag. So everything is automatically tracked without tagging, and this tool is suitable for large organizations. Crazy Egg allows you to build heat maps and track your visitors every click based on where they are specifically clicking. So if this is an interest of you and you want to see which parts of the website people are most interested in and improve your website design and, in essence, conversion, this is the one for you. IBM also have a tool called Digital Analytics. Their USP is that it provides you with comparative insights and benchmarks against industry leaders. Woopra is also a real-time tool similar to Clicky, but has an integrated CRM analysis functions within there. And lastly, SessionCam provides the recordings of browser-based customer interactions, so you can replay every mouse movement, click, and mobile gesture of people browsing your website. So now I'm going to quickly hand you over to Grant, and he's going to go through how can we use machine learning to harness on and offline data.
Great, thanks Laura. So machine learning looks at a multitude of patterns within a consumer's journey to predict the next best product to offer, assess sentiment to determine satisfaction, determine threats. Sorry, the presentation's just died. Let me quickly start it up again. There we go. And there we go. Sorry about that. So yeah, it also allows us to determine threats, in this case whether a consumer's actions are likely to result in them lapsing or even committing fraud. It also allows an array of other possibilities. Now that online data is available to pull offline, it can be merged with demographics to predict behaviors of different subgroups of your customer base. We can use machine learning for targeted sales campaigns, So machine learning has mostly been used to drive sales in real time, but now that online data is available offline, it can be used to tailor creatives as well. Delayed retargeting does not need to take the form of identically browsed items though. So using machine learning, it is possible to send your consumers a selection of items based on traits of the items they were browsing online, meaning you have not lost the chance to showcase the array of items you have on offer once they leave your website. Machine learning allows you to retarget items based on similarities, such as color in this example. Other blue dresses can be shown to the consumer who's abandoned her basket online. Patterns can also be used, as it has been here, or the figure-hugging shape of the item the consumer had been browsing. In other sectors, retargeting ads could be based on terms, risk, reward, and so on for finance, or outcome, severity, threat, and so on for charities. You can use machine learning to harness customer feedback. So reviews that customers make online can also be extracted offline and used to tailor content. Reviews can be assessed using machine learning techniques to evaluate sentiment. This is particularly useful for websites that generate thousands of reviews, which cannot each be assessed on an individual basis. Sentiment can be evaluated at product or service level, allowing marketeers to respond to consumers' comments en masse by setting up a number of themed templates. The result is a highly targeted communication to a perhaps disgruntled consumer who may not have purchased from you again, or perhaps acknowledging a consumer's praise of your brand, thus potentially increasing the value of their next purchase even more. Machine learning can also be used to predict the lifetime value of a consumer from the outset of their initial visit. Obviously, the more data collected about each individual, the better those predictions become, thus capturing online behavior, whether a person makes a purchase or not, can be used to assign value to an individual. This potential value can be used to amend the tone of communications being sent out to ensure the customer's true value is maximized. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so all the questions that have been submitted, we'll send you an email with the answers. If you have anything else, here are my contact details. Please get hold of me. The email you can send questions to is info@m-metrics.com.
Just a quick note, Marketing Metrics are able to implement or consult on any of the topics that have been covered, so really feel free to get in touch with any questions that you have or if these are of interest to your organisation. I hope that the webinar has been useful to you and that you've learned something about how to harness on and offline data and how it can really drive and empower your business.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.